Welcome to the deep dive. We try to unpack complex topics, give you the essential insights fast. Today it's Japan, a really critical political shakeup there. We're going to explore the implications of their recent upper house election results and what this pretty unexpected outcome means for Prime Minister Shigarushiba's government. We've got sources offering a direct window into the immediate aftermath, the surprising rise of a new political force, and the complex challenges now facing Japan. Our goal, cut through the noise, get you properly informed on this pivotal moment.
Exactly. And this isn't just about, what happened. We'll be trying to connect the dots, understand why it matters, linking these events to broader political, economic trends, and asking some pretty critical questions about what this signals for Japan and maybe even globally.
Okay, let's get into it. So the story starts with Japan's Prime Minister Shigarushiba. His ruling coalition just took a significant hit in these upper house elections. And this wasn't minor, was it? It feels like a real shift.
Oh, absolutely. The numbers, they really tell the story. Ishiba's coalition, they only got 47 seats. The 248-seat House of Councilors, that's their upper chamber. Now, to keep control, they needed 50. Just 3 short, but a crucial 3. So this leaves his party, the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, and their junior partner, Komeito, with a combined 122 deputies. And remember, half the seats in that upper house, they come up for election every 3 years. So it's cyclical. But this result was definitely not what the ruling party expected or wanted.
Unexpected. And the immediate fallout seems to be, a bit of a scramble within his own party, some people questioning his future. And the opposition might even try a no-confidence motion.
That's right. The pressure is definitely on. The LDP isn't really used to this kind of internal rumbling, or at least not so publicly. No-confidence motion, even if it fails, it signals real weakness. Could destabilize the coalition even more.
Okay, so with all that swirling, how did Ishiba himself respond? Because he said he's staying, which sounds pretty bold given the loss. How is he justifying sticking around?
Yeah, he was very clear. He intends to remain in office. And he gave some specific pragmatic reasons. He pointed to the need to oversee these really crucial tariff negotiations with the U.S. That's a big one. And also tackling urgent domestic issues, like rising consumer prices. That's really hitting Japan's economy, the world's 4th largest. He actually said, and this quote is quite revealing, I think, changes in the external environment, such as the international situation or natural disasters, cannot wait for the political situation to improve. Well, basically duty calls. He also talked about fulfilling his responsibility as the party with the most votes and listening carefully and sincerely to the voices of the local people. That's a strong stance, laying out clear reasons. But, in a system where party backing is everything, how much does that actually count for when there's dissent inside the tent? Is this more about a lack of obvious successors in the LDP, maybe? Or just a calculated gamble on his part? It's probably a bit of both. Tomohiko Taniguchi, he's with the Fujitsu Future Studies Center, he pointed out that there's a, quote, shortage of possible leaders in the ruling party. So because of that, there's a fair chance Ishiba will manage to hang on. It kind of highlights a bit of a vacuum, maybe, in the LDP's leadership pipeline. So maybe stability, even weakened stability, wins out over immediate accountability. But Taniguchi also warned there's going to be, quote, much inter-party battle. So his grip on power isn't exactly secure. It could still get rocky.
Right, okay. That makes sense. So this defeat, it wasn't just about Ishiba himself then. It points to something deeper, which brings us to, why voters were so unhappy. What were the real undercurrents here? What drove this result?
Well, the sources we looked at are pretty consistent on this. Widespread discontent over rising living costs. That seems to be the main thing. And beyond that, there's real anxiety about Japan's declining birth rate. That's a long-term worry kicking in. And then there are the immediate impacts. Things people feel every day, like rising food prices. Rice, for example. Apparently the cost has doubled in the last year.
Doubled? Wow.
Doubled. For rice. That's fundamental. That's not just some statistic. That's a direct blow to household budgets right across Japan.
Yeah, you can see why people would be unhappy. And it's interesting, immigration comes up in some contexts, but the NHK polling before the election, it showed only about 7% saw that as their main concern, which is way less than the birth rate or those food prices. Really underscores the economic pinch, doesn't it?
It really does.
Okay, but amidst all this economic anxiety, something else happened, something really surprising. This new political force, the far-right Sanso Party, they kind of broke through into the mainstream. What's the story there?
Yes, that was quite the development. It really did catch a lot of observers off guard.
Yeah.
Sanso picked up 14 seats in this election. They only had one before. Now, okay, they still only hold 3 seats in the National Diet overall. That's the main parliament. But getting 14 seats in the upper house, that's a significant jump. It definitely pushes them into the mainstream conversation in a way they weren't before.
In their platform, what do they offer? It sounds like they tapped right into that voter frustration we were just talking about. Inflation, the moribund economy, as one source put it, warnings about immigration too, and populist promises on tax cuts, social welfare.
That's the mix, yeah. Their leader is a guy named Sohe Kamiya. He's 47, former English teacher, apparently, and also managed a supermarket. He's definitely courted controversy. He's been linked to conspiracy theories about vaccines and globalist elites, that kind of rhetoric.
And he's also mentioned Donald Trump's bold political style as an inspiration. That tells you something about the approach, I guess, sort of disruptive, anti-establishment.
It definitely signals that, yeah. It suggests a willingness to break norms, which is, well, relatively new in mainstream Japanese politics. He actually defended his Japanese first slogan in an interview. He said, the phrase was meant to express rebuilding Japanese people's livelihoods by resisting globalism. And he added, I am not saying we should completely ban foreigners or that every foreigner should get out of Japan. But, despite that clarification, the party really built its campaign on nationalist appeals and fears of a silent invasion by immigrants. So there's this tension, right? Trying to moderate the language a bit, maybe, but still using those really potent nationalist themes.
Okay, so let's try and tie this together. We've got the ruling LDP losing ground because of economic pain. We have the leader Ishiba digging in his heels, and now this new populist force, Sanseto, rising up. What does it all mean for Japan's future? Its place in the world? How do these pieces fit?
Well, I think what's significant is that the LDP, which has been this dominant force for so long, is now facing the kind of challenge from populist movements that we've maybe seen more often in Western countries. Joshua Walker, he's president of the Japan Society in the U.S., he links Sanseto's rise directly to the LDP's weakness. He suggests the ruling party just hasn't connected with voters on those core economic worries. And that failure, it seems, created an opening.
Yeah. And Sanseto is being compared to groups like Germany's AfD or Reform UK.
That comparison is being made, yes. And it's striking because, as the sources note, right-wing populism is a relatively new phenomenon in Japan. These kinds of movements have historically struggled to gain traction there. So Sanseto breaking through like this, it's pretty significant. It suggests that maybe even in Japan, with its different political culture, those ingredients, economic frustration, maybe a charismatic leader, nationalism, they're finding fertile ground now.
And all this is happening while Ishiba's government is, let's not forget, locked in high-stakes trade negotiations with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. That adds a whole other layer of pressure, right? Being weaker at home doesn't help when you're negotiating internationally.
Not at all. It definitely complicates things on the world stage.
Okay, so let's recap the core tension here. You've got a leader, Ishiba, fighting to stay in power after this election defeat, which seems driven mainly by deep economic frustration. And at the same time, you have the surprising rise of this new populist voice, Sanseto, challenging the old ways.
Exactly. It paints a picture of real complexity. Japan's facing these domestic economic headwinds, a shifting political map internally, and these critical international talks that really need stable leadership. It's a genuine test for the LDP after decades of dominance, and maybe a sign of, well, changing times.
So that leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. In a world where we see economic anxiety driving political change so often, what can we learn from Japan's recent election? What does it tell us about how resilient established parties are versus the appeal of these new, sometimes, controversial voices? And what does it signal about the global rise of populism, even in places where it didn't seem to take root before? What could that mean for stability, for policy down the road?